Hello and welcome to Creating Active Lives with me, Sarah Bolitha, and my regular guests, all talking about science, strategies, ways that we can all create more activity or just live a life that fulfills us and things like that. I am really pleased this week to have the previous guest come back. Charlotte Lawson is back with me. You may remember her from an episode about putting your own oxygen mask on first, which anyone who knows me will know is something I do bang on about all the time. And Charlotte's changed direction slightly. She'll tell us a little bit more about that in a moment. But what we really want to talk about is, if you like, the fourth trimester, as it's sometimes known, which is the postnatal period, and how important it is to actually prioritize yourself somehow, in some way, at a time when it's actually really difficult to do that. So, Charlotte, tell us a little bit more about what you're doing now, because I know you've shifted slightly in what you do, and then we'll talk
Yeah,
about the good old fourth trimester.
yeah, thank you, Sarah. I'm Charlotte Lawson and I'm a sustainable success coach. So, I help women who are very, very capable but who feel like they're drowning in their own high standards. And what I do is I help them start actually enjoying their lives again. So, a lot of the women who come and work with me feel like they are just completely overwhelmed. They feel like they're overthinking everything. Some of them are close to burnout. They're really struggling with things like switching off and constantly thinking about all the things that they still have to do. And they're putting themselves under an awful lot of pressure just to be the best version of themselves in all areas of their life, but they feel like they're completely failing at everything. So, in the work that I do with women now, is I help them to overcome that constant pressure that they're putting themselves under, overcome the overthinking that they're struggling with, change the relationship that they have with themselves and the way that they relate to other people in terms of boundaries, so that they can start enjoying their lives again, but actually still achieve all the things they want to achieve, but just in a much more sustainable way. So I think today we're probably going to touch on my experience of postpartum, my experience of myself and the women that I help with those really high standards and expectations and how that can get you in a bit of a pickle.
Oh,
So yeah, I think it's going to be really, really interesting
yeah.
conversation, Sarah. Thank you for
I,
inviting me back.
I am looking forward to this. It's something that I feel quite passionate about, having unfortunately kind of lost people to postnatal depression, and I think
Mm,
particularly for women who strive for success, who are perfectionists, who have very, very high standards, it can be a particularly vulnerable time because you're not in that kind of familiar work environment. You're dealing with something that there is no manual for. There's
mm,
lots of books out there about babies and stuff, but there's no real manual that says, this is what happens. That it's very, every child, every baby is different. And I think there is almost an expectation in society that, gosh, you must be so happy. What a wonderful time. Oh, you're so blessed. You're so lucky. And it's not always like that because, particularly if you've got high standards, the fact that you're still in your PJs at 4 o'clock in the afternoon with some milk sick down your back, it can be quite distressing for people. There's this
yeah.
expectation that you'll be in floaty linen under a tree with a homemade lemonade and the baby's gurgling at your feet. It's not like that, and it's very hard, I think, sometimes to understand that actually it's okay to do enough rather than it all. And
Yeah.
that's something I think, but it's hard, isn't it? Particularly if you've been in an industry or a business where standards are everything, to suddenly realize that actually you can lower them. How do we do that? Tell us what happened with
Oh.
you. Tell us what happened with you.
Well, yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? I think for me, one of the biggest things was the way that I thought motherhood and early motherhood would be, and the way I thought I would be as a mother was completely different to what my reality was. So, yeah, absolutely, there is that past and present, I guess, person in me that really wants to get things done and achieve really well. And it feels really hard on those days that all you've done is look after an upset baby and like you say, you've not even got dressed. But the mother that I thought I would be is the mother who would happily leave her baby with the in-laws for a weekend while she went off for her anniversary with her husband. Like, that is so far away from what I wanted to do once baby arrived. Like, it is unbelievable. And exercise used to be, and is, an enormous part of my life. And I thought that by 6 weeks postpartum, I would be back doing exactly what I was doing before. And so I had this idea in my head of, this is what it'll be like. I'll be handing baby over. I'll give baby to dad to go on a drive in the car if they're upset, so he can get them to sleep while I do some exercise. Baby hated the car. That was never going to happen. But actually, what I wasn't expecting was this like complete overwhelming love that I felt for this baby. And I didn't want to leave them. I didn't want to palm them off on anybody else. Like, I wanted to be with them. And so actually, what I found really hard was fitting in that time to look after me, because I didn't want to be apart from them. And I found it really hard to trust anybody to even hold them. I mean, apart from my husband and my mum, they were like the two people
Yeah.
who, I would trust for periods of time to like have a bath. But certainly for nothing longer. And yeah, I mean, the 6 weeks came and went, and another 6 weeks came and went. And it's just, I think, those expectations that you can have, and just allowing yourself for it to be different to what you think it is, and taking the pressure off, because it's okay that it's not what you think it might be. And also, it's okay that it's different for everyone, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, some people can't wait to be like, take the baby,
Yeah.
let me get out of here.
It,
But it's okay, whatever it is, isn't it?
Absolutely, and you're so right. It's so different for everybody, and there's no right way or wrong way. There's just the way that happens to be on that day, or it's today's way, really. But it's. Do you think there's an element of, like we see celebrities, we see social media, people have babies and they appear to snap back into shape, and it's like this is how it should be. Whereas the reality, I mean, at the end of the day, if it's taking you 9 months to grow the baby, it's going to take you probably 9 months at least to
Mm,
recover from that. But there's no, you get the glowing pregnant mum, but you don't get the less than glowy postnatal mum, who's, like you say, it is that kind of expectation that everything will carry on as normal. And I, fair play. Some women do seem to manage that sort of switch into motherhood and still manage things, usually because they've got great support. But
mm,
also, for a lot of women, the partner might only be off work for a short period of time, and they've got to manage everything. And it's, if the baby's having a bad day, you have a bad day.
yeah,
You can't just sort of wipe it out and say, oh, yeah, the baby's having a bad day, but everything's great, because you're so focused on it. Like you say, there is that overwhelming, not just love, but there's that overwhelming need to provide, to protect, to
yeah,
nourish, to nurture. And I think sometimes social media gives us a very misleading, 6 weeks, get back into shape, start exercising and things. Whereas actually, it would be much better if we said, do you know what, just start doing what you feel like doing. Go
yeah,
for a short walk. Don't worry about your abs yet. It's going to take them time to get back to normal. And I think, we need to actively take the pressure off ourselves to meet previous standards.
yeah.
But it's hard because we teach people to have high standards, but we don't teach people how to cope with lowering those standards because of necessity.
Yeah, yeah, and just completely changing the way that you're expecting it to go. So actually, you've just had a baby, like you've had a 9 month pregnancy, your core is completely shot to pieces and
Yeah,
stretched beyond recognition. Like your pelvic floor, I mean, gosh, mine needed quite a lot of rehabilitation. Like, it's almost like you're recovering from a long-term injury. It's gonna take time, and I think you're right. The way it's like shown on social media, everyone, well, like celebrities and people share like when they're doing really well, but there's not very many stories of people being like, actually, all of a sudden exercise wasn't a priority, my baby was my sole priority. Or my body was in a really bad way after birth. And for some people, that is the reality, isn't it? And even if it's not, even if, I had a really straightforward birth both times, but your body still needs to recover and repair, and that takes time.
It's not called labour for nothing. It's hard work. It's just,
Yeah.
oh no, I remember my mother-in-law turned up, um, but she appeared, and I was literally, she looked at me up and down and went, "Oh, you're still big then." I had a baby. It was only like 7 hours ago. Of course, I'm still big, and
Oh
it just
my
made me
goodness.
feel really, oh, and I wasn't particularly. I mean, I have to admit, my baby was quite small, and I wasn't particularly big, but it just really was. Oh, and it was kind of like, where's the kindness? Where's the
Yeah. So
everything?
unnecessary.
Yeah, and it's something that I think, again, particularly women who've been successful in business and things like that. It's really hard to accept less than you're used to, you're striving for. But it's also, isn't there also, there's a drive to have high standards. So to kind
Mm.
of step away from that, how do we do that? How do we say, do you know what? It's okay that I haven't washed today. It's okay that the sink's full of dishes. It's okay that the dishwasher hasn't been run. How do we let go of the need to be perfect and actually accept good enough? Or
So I think there's maybe a couple of things here, and one is just giving yourself an enormous dose of self-compassion. So like whenever those thoughts are coming in of, oh, like I've still not emptied the dishwasher, I've not done this, I've not done that, I've not done the other, countering those thoughts and going, well, hang on a minute, like that's okay. I'm raising a baby, like I'm kept them alive. That is the most important thing. So giving yourself a huge dose of self-compassion, like it's okay to be finding this hard. It's okay that you're not doing any of those things that you think that you should be doing. It's okay to take this slow, and actually maybe reframing it and going, what is most important in this period of my life? It's not having a pristine house. It's not getting back to the exact same life and success that I had before. It's learning my baby, and it's learning this whole new identity, because you've got a completely new identity when you
yeah,
become a mother. Like you've never been a mother before. And that's one of the things that I found easier going from 1 to 2 than 0 to 1 is you're already a mum. You already know how that works for you.
it's that
But
shift in
yeah,
identity.
shifting identity, yeah.
So it's something, I mean, you mentioned about having some rehab afterwards, and we don't need to go into sort of medical details and stuff here, but do you think it's important after you've had a baby, and particularly when you're back on your own for most of the day, your partner maybe has gone back to work, and family and friends have kind of like, oh, you're coping really well, off you go. Do you think it's important to know that there is help out there for things like pelvic floor rehab, abdominal rehab? And I don't mean here getting back in shape. I mean getting back into normal function rather than looking good. It's about functioning properly, but also mental health. Do you think it's important to know that there's help out there and how to access it? Because I think people don't always realise that some of the after effects aren't necessarily that they happen, but carrying on is not normal. There are ways to get better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, especially like post COVID, and since the health visiting service has been really thinned down, and now a lot of it is over like Zoom calls, and the 6 week check with your GP like doesn't really go into pelvic health at all, or even like core recovery or any of that. And it's like, oh yeah, you're signed off now. So I think what we see is a very limited amount of what is actually possible. So in terms of mental health, I think like, so baby blues are completely normal. When your milk comes in, or those first 5 days a week, if it's not improving and you're still feeling really low after 2, 3, 4 weeks, you need to be getting in touch with your GP and
Yeah,
saying, actually, I'm feeling really anxious. I'm having intrusive thoughts about dropping my baby down the stairs. I'm feeling really low and struggling to get up. I'm not bonding with my baby. Any of those things, speak to your health visitor, speak to your GP. And there's so much help out there. And I know in our area there is a service called Talking Therapies. And if you're pregnant or in the first year postnatally, so this is an NHS service, they put you to the top of the waiting list. So I've used those after my daughter, and I was like started on therapy within a month. So it's amazing actually what is out there if you just know. But the way to get that help really is through your GP if your mental health is struggling. And then,
Can I just add, this
mm,
is so important because it's estimated that something like 1 in 3 women experience depression during pregnancy, not
mm,
postnatally, but during pregnancy. And
yeah,
if it carries on, you are much more likely to develop serious postnatal depression. It is also normal to have what I would call kind of unkind thoughts about, just I'm going to shut the baby in a room, I'm going to leave them there, I'm going to, I just can't cope with this. You're not going to ever act on any of these things, but sometimes the fact that you've had those thoughts makes people think I can't go and get help because they'll think there's something very wrong with me. They'll think I'm going to harm my baby. You're not. You're absolutely not. You're just at the end of your tether. And
mm,
we all have, I mean, let's face it, we all have, like somebody annoys us in the street and we imagine punching them or something. We don't act on these things because we just never would. But
mm,
sometimes the thought is enough to kind of quieten the emotion down. But to go to somebody and say, I'm having these really weird thoughts, you sort of think they're going to think there's something made wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with you. You're probably sleep deprived. You're probably a little bit on the edge of depression, but also
mm,
you've got all the raging hormones still floating around. Um,
yeah,
and, you know, it's okay to talk to someone and say, I'm having completely irrational thoughts. I don't know how to cope with it. Help.
yeah. And they're
Because
not going to take your baby away. They're going to help you.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And they'll probably be like, "Oh yeah, I've thought that too." You know, it
Mm,
is. We get a little bit irrational at times, and you've had no sleep for several weeks. You're probably
yeah.
so. But there are so many places you can go to for help with mental health or anything like that. And I want to add as well here, those of you who've got friends who are with new babies, don't turn up with a bunch of roses and say, "Oh, lovely, cuckoo, lovely. Let's take a few pictures. Off you go." Turn up with a meal. Turn up with some bath salts, Badadas. There are other bath foams available, but Badadas is always recommended because it's got something in it that helps with pelvic recovery. Turn up with something like that and say, "Give me the baby for half an hour. On the loo and watch you while you have a bath, or I'll sit while you have a meal." Have the baby. Do something practical for someone. Turn up and say, "Right, there's 3 of us. We're going to tidy the house for you." Do the
Yeah.
things that aren't necessary, but will make the mum feel, one less thing I've got to do. That's brilliant. I think that can really help with your mental health. Just knowing you've got that practical support. It isn't about cooing over the baby. It's about cleaning the bathroom sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, the people that turned up and like made their own drinks was just such a simple thing. Like,
Yeah.
I don't need to put the baby down, I don't need to hand the baby to you if I don't want to in that moment. You can make yourself a drink, make me one too. And yeah, absolutely, they were the people that were the best visitors, or if they did my washing up, or hung my washing out, or the things that you really struggle to get around to. That practical support is, yeah, so so helpful. And in terms of like physical recovery stuff, the best thing that I did was see a women's health physiotherapist.
Mm.
So we've got one local to us who's Emma Claire Physiotherapy, and she's just amazing. So I had some symptoms in the first few weeks that I was thinking like, oh, this isn't right, and it made me not have the confidence to do any movement or exercise because I was really worried about making things worse. So I think there's a lot of people who feel like that, like they don't know what to do in a way that's not going to make any issues worse. And I think seeing a pelvic health or women's health physiotherapist is just worth the weight in gold, because we discovered that I was doing my pelvic floor exercises completely wrong. So in a way that wasn't going to be like helping, it was going to be adding a lot of tension to my body. Um, and Emma was just amazing because she gave me like very few instructions, but ones that could really fit easily into life with a baby. So sometimes you go to a physio, don't you, and they give you like half an hour's worth of exercises that you need to do every day. And that is just never going to work when you've got a young baby that you're looking after. So, yeah, what was amazing about Emma was she completely understood that. One of the things she prescribed for me was just like relaxation time. She was like, it's okay for mum or husband to sit with the baby outside the bathroom while you have a bath, which was really helpful actually for somebody to say that like I think in a way maybe that permission just helped me a little bit. I wasn't gonna go out of the house and leave the baby at that point, but having a bath with them really close by where I could hear that if baby got upset or they needed a feed that I could, get out and be right there. And just the simple things that are going to make the difference. So very few exercises, but ones that you can fit into your day. I think that was really, really helpful because that the first time around, I just felt so overwhelmed and confused by, I know that there is a way to get back to exercise and I know that other people are doing it, but one, I don't want to leave my baby to do anything. I had to completely reframe what counted as exercise in my head. Like before having my baby, I only thought like a full workout counted. And afterwards, you realize that actually, even if you do like 5 squats while the kettle's boiling before you pick the baby back up off the mat, or a short walk somewhere, that all counts and it all builds up. And before you know it, it's snowballing, but you've
Yeah.
just got to allow yourself to do the small amounts of like, I think Dr. Chatterjee calls it exercise snacking, doesn't he? Is it
Yeah.
Dr. Chatterjee that calls it that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a few now. It's exercise, snacking, or activity snack activity,
Yeah, I like that snacktivity.
activity. But it
Yeah,
is,
so just reframe what counts, and it all counts, it all adds up. You don't have to do like a full hour or even half an hour. You
correct.
just do bits where you
Yes,
can. When
press up,
baby's
kiss the
settled.
baby. Press up,
Yeah.
kiss the baby. Things like that. I'm not an advocate of using babies as weights and lifting them above your head because of the risk of dropping them. But if the baby's safe on the floor, then do some little things next to them and stuff. I think what you're saying though about pelvic floor health is really, really important. And we always used to refer to people as women's health physios, even though
Mm,
they kind of specialise a lot in the pelvic area. They tend to be known as pelvic health physios now because obviously a lot of men, things like prostate cancer and things are going in. But
yeah.
right, they are absolutely worth their weight of gold because if there's an issue with your pelvic floor, you are going to be very unlikely to want to do any other kind of exercise because of the fear of, little leaks and things like that. So I think, again, if you tend to get a leaflet in the hospital, little leaflet, go away and do this. But if you've never done these sorts of things before, you don't, like you say, you could be doing things wrong and making things
Mm,
worse. I
yeah.
know a common thing with a lot of women is diastasis recti, which is the two, like when you talk about the six pack, it's those two bands that are down the middle. We've all got that, by the way. You just often
Mm.
can't see it because we've got, cushioning in front of it. With a baby, they tend to lengthen and stretch slightly. They separate slightly. Um, I mean, it's normal and it's kind of the tissues that stretch. It's not like but until they've gone back properly, you shouldn't really be doing. There's a lot of exercise you shouldn't do
Yeah.
because there isn't the support for your core, your inner organs, and everything like that. And
Yeah.
back in the day, we used to do what we call the rec check, which is you're checking for separation. And when
Mm,
you get to a certain point, you say, right, you can go back to doing abdominal work now. But before that, it's gentle stuff, pelvic tilt, abdominal hollowing. But again, there's the sorts of things that you can do while you're lying down, while you're waiting for the kettle to boil. It doesn't
yeah.
have to be, I must go and exercise for half an hour or whatever. It can be, right, as I'm standing here, I'm going to do pelvic floor, I'm going to do my abdominal pull ins and start to get everything back. But so many
Yeah.
people don't realise that the separation's there. They do too much too soon, they make it worse, but there can be problems years later because they
Mm,
never kind of got there. And it will go back if it's treated properly, but if it's not,
yeah.
this is where a pelvic health physio can really help to.
Yes, because Emma helped me with that as well because I didn't seem to have the brain connection to my deep core, like my transverse abs, which is one of the things that they help you restore, isn't it, to
Yeah.
protect that linear alba, like that where the diastasis is. So I just couldn't get my brain to be like, this part of my body I need you to switch on now. Like it just was not working. So again, like that's one of the things that Emma helped me with so that we could build that up, so that got stronger and it protected my core. And it all works in tandem, doesn't it? Like
Yeah.
pelvic floor, your core, it all needs to be working well together. And even like breathing, when you're pregnant, like your baby's up in your rib cage, isn't it? So you don't
Yeah.
use your ribs as well when you're breathing. And yeah, Emma taught me all about that as well. And it is amazing what they do. And to give you that foundation from which you can then build exercise back in, but in a really safe way. Because like you say, if you don't do that, you can make it worse.
Yes, absolutely. And I was shocked once that somebody had said that you can go running as soon as you want after a baby because there's no impact on the pelvis. Well, maybe not on the pelvic. I mean, I'm not going to go into the semantics here because I could be talking forever, but there'd be a lot of impact on the pelvic floor. And, you
Yeah.
know, eek. And I just think, we, we're not always aware of how much help and support there is out there. I
Mm,
know somebody once, and she said she was devastated because she really struggled to breastfeed. And in the end, her husband said, "Look, you have to stop because you're crying with pain every single time. It's
mm,
just not fair on either of you. It's awful." And she did. I mean, genuinely. And she'd asked the midwife coming around. She'd asked health visitors, things like that. She found out about a year later that there was a breastfeeding cafe. And those of you, if anyone's listening to this, thinking, what? It's basically where mums can go and get proper advice and support from a lactation specialist. So they will literally show people what to do, how to do it, everything to do with getting the best experience. But nobody told her that existed a couple of streets away from where she lived. And
oh,
it's
what a
it's
shame.
I know. And it's simple things like that that, we need a lot more of this kind of collaborative working between
Mm,
not just the medical professionals, the health professionals, but also between mums.
yeah,
Saying, gosh, how are you getting on with breastfeeding? Asking the direct questions. How are you getting on with it? Did you know that there's support on a Tuesday afternoon at this place?
yeah,
Really sharing that kind of information. You said your pelvic health physio is Emma. Oh, talk to Emma. She's really, really good at helping you sort that out. We need a lot more of that kind of like collaboration between mums,
mm,
not just for the how to wean and how to do this that, but also where to go for advice when you're struggling. And we shouldn't
yeah,
wait until someone says, I'm really, really low, I don't know what to do, I'm always weepy. We shouldn't wait for that. We should be saying, look, here's everything that's in the area to do with mums and babies.
mm,
Here it all is. If you
yeah,
need anything, it's going to be on the list. um
yeah, yeah. Because we had huge feeding issues, and I didn't know that it wasn't normal for your baby to scream at the breast instead of latching.
yeah,
Like I just because well it was COVID times, so there wasn't the baby groups, there wasn't any of that really. And we didn't get help for weeks, and in the end we um paid for an IBCLC, um, who was also amazing. Like these people who've supported us are incredible. So that was Caroline Bolton, who's based in York, and she completely saved our breastfeeding journey. She
yeah,
diagnosed a tongue tie, and then we could get it sorted, and she supported us the whole way through. And yeah, we breastfed for years, which was a surprise to me, but we were really struggling at 2 months postpartum, and it was heading like it might have been going towards the end, because you don't a baby shouldn't be screaming at the breast.
no,
And but I didn't know that that support was there until I'd done so much searching and
yeah,
weeks had gone by. But if somebody had said to me at 3 weeks, like, I don't normally feed every half an hour, and
yeah.
yeah,
And again, it's that sort of thing. Coming back to sort of getting back to being more active, and we're not even talking about exercise here, just doing a bit more activity. You're exhausted after things like that. You're dreading the next bout of
yeah,
feeding, and it all starts to build up, and it all starts to. And we know that we're not talking about exercising. We're talking about going for a gentle walk. We're talking
Yeah.
about, like you say, doing a few squats, doing your pelvic floor, things like that. Gentle stuff that feels comfortable, that feels good. It's good for the baby as well. Get them out in the fresh air, get them moving in either the whatever, if you're doing baby wearing or if you've got a sling or if it's a bucket, whatever it is. It it's but you just don't feel like it when you sort of think, oh goodness, I've got half an hour before the next feed. So it's so difficult, isn't it, to get that kind of to put yourself first and say, no, I know that it's going to be a short time before I have to do X, Y, and Z, but I am going to take myself. We're going to go for a walk for 10 minutes, for 20 minutes. But how do you get
Mm.
over the kind of, I'm not a priority? The baby is, the house is, the husband is, everyone else is, because they are priority. We're all, everything's a priority. But like we said before, you've got to put your own oxygen mask on first, because if you're not getting enough oxygen, you're going to struggle. How do we
Yeah.
get over prioritizing everyone else and putting ourselves up there as well?
So I think one of the things that you can do for this is coming back to like why? What makes it important? Why do you want to get back to exercise, or why do you want to look after yourself? And it's looking at, when I do those things, I am this kind of person. So if I take some time out to read my book while my husband, partner, has the baby for a nap in the carrier, then I'm going to feel much more restored. I'm going to have much more patience. Getting through the night when they're waking multiple times is going to be easier because I've just had that bit of downtime for myself. Why do you want to get back to exercise? Well, most people know that their babies are going to grow up and they want to be able to keep up with them when they're scooting off on their balance bike at 100 mile an hour, and you want to be able to run after them to be like, stop, don't go over the road.
Yeah, or when they run and there's nothing, no one runs faster than a toddler with something in their mouth that they shouldn't have.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that they
Yeah,
shouldn't have.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it is, and as they get bigger, you've got to pick them up, and it. But I like that. I like that thinking. Okay, not just to be in shape, to have defined muscles and that sort of thing. It's about how it helps you in your day-to-day life, isn't it? It's thinking,
Mm,
if I can cope better with the nights, I can
yeah.
cope better with busy times and breastfeeding days and things. It's kind of looking at it from a different angle, how it
Mm,
will help me cope rather than how it will help me look.
yeah, definitely. And one of the things that I did the second time round, um, which was largely actually I was able to do because I'd had Emma's support. I knew what I was doing. I could do the pelvic floor and the pelvic tilts and all the rehab sooner. So I was able to do more walks and longer walks carrying my baby much sooner. Um, so one of the things that I did was I dropped my eldest at preschool and I'd go for like a walk, and I'd built up to do an hour, but that was such amazing brain space for me. In the early days, I still do it and I still carry him, and he's nearly 2. And in the early days, it was really good brain space because he would sleep and I would just listen to the birds or, just notice what was around me.
Mm.
And actually, that was time for me, but I was still meeting his needs, because the other thing that I learned the first time round, which was a skill that I used both times constantly, was I contacted a sling library, which these are amazing as well. So just Google sling libraries. I learned how to baby wear safely, and I also learned how to breastfeed in the carrier. And I know that there's been some really sad cases recently, and it's had a lot of bad press as breastfeeding in a carrier, but there is a way to do it safely. It's not hands-free, but you can learn to do it safely with support of a sling library. And what that allowed me to do was go for a walk, and even if the floor was wet and there was nowhere to sit down and I couldn't, find somewhere to sit and feed the baby and get them out, I knew that I could still meet their needs, like feed them on demand,
Mm.
even if I'm out for a half-hour walk, because I can just lower the carrier to an appropriate height, latch them on, keep an eye on them, make sure their airways are always clear, all the things that you need to do. But I could feed and get my walk done, and it wasn't a barrier to me, the fact that, oh, there's going to be nowhere to sit or it's really wet, like actually, once you can feed in a carrier, you don't need to worry about any of those things because you can just drop them down, carry on walking and feed, put them back up again. And it's not something that needs to stop you or is going to stop you, because the first few weeks with my eldest, that was one of the things that stopped me getting out. I was thinking, well, if she needs a feed, what am I going to do? How am I
Yeah.
going to, like, I don't want to sit on the pavement, although I definitely did that a few times. And I don't want to make them wait 10 minutes till we get home. I want to be able to feed them straight away. So that was really, really useful to be able to learn that skill.
So it's finding sort of activities, and this is where, there are dedicated classes and things that people can go to where, everybody's in the same boat. If you need to feed, then you do. And I think again that's important, isn't it? Is knowing what's around in your area. But like you say,
Yeah,
it's things like looking for the other support, things like slings, things like feeding guidance, all that, because it all helps you to get back into activity. And at the end of the day, we want to be role models for our children. The more they see us being active, the more they'll be active and
yeah,
experiencing it. You're taking a baby out, they're close to you, they can hear your heartbeat, but
mm,
also they can hear the birds, the trees, they can smell nature. It's all about stimulation. We tend to
yeah,
think of stimulation as the bright colours and the toys and the noise, but sometimes it is just the whisper of the wind or the faint rustle of a tree or a bird singing, and it
yeah,
all starts to build that love of nature, that love of being outside in them. And
yeah,
you know but it gets you back to gentle activity much more quickly because you're ready for it. You're not worried, and it's that support, isn't it? So,
yeah.
what would be? I'm just aware of time, really. But what would be your top tip to somebody who has a newborn and
Hmm.
is kind of struggling with the high standards, the perfectionism, and the fact that you know has put themselves last. Really, they've everything else comes first.
Mm. So I think the top tip would be take the pressure off yourself that it has to look a certain way, that you have to be a certain way or feel a certain way, and just meet yourself where you're at and do what works for you and your family. So, and that can be different every single day as well. So, some days you might just need a bath or to read your book. Some days you might feel well enough or good enough to go for a walk. Don't expect so much of yourself to be able to snap back to what you were doing, but find ways that you can fit it in really easily into your life. One of the things that I did was the bump plan, which was an online. I did it through pregnancy, my second pregnancy. It's an online, it's Pilates and cardio, and they also have a postnatal one, which builds you up really slowly. So when I'd sort of got signed off from Emma, I moved on to that. And they have some, I think it's just 6 per stage. So it's not overwhelming to choose which exercise to do. The Holly who has the bump plan, she's really good at cueing you with your pelvic floor and your deep core. And you can just do, like, I think there was some 20-minute workouts, some 30. So while baby's having a nap or they're happy playing, just slot it in wherever you can find times that are going to work for you. And it doesn't even need to be full workouts like that, especially in the early days. I think it was maybe 6 months by the time I got to doing those. But in those early days, just find ways that are going to work for you. And if that is handing baby over while you go for a walk by yourself, do that. If that is taking baby with you while you do a walk in a carrier, do that. If that's a handful of squats while baby's happy on the mat, do that. Just take the pressure off yourself to make it look a certain way and that you have to do certain things, and just find what works for you and be prepared to adapt it as well as they get older, because they're not going to stay tiny forever. You are going to get more time. They're going to become more aware. So now, yes, I still baby wear and do my hour walks with my nearly 2 year old. He doesn't sleep anymore, so that's not brain space for me anymore. But we have lovely walks where I talk to
Yeah.
him and he points out the cars and he points out the sheep and he points out the horses, and it's a really nice thing to do to still bond with him, but I get an adult paced walk and get a few steps in, and it just makes all the difference. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I think
be
that's
kind
it.
to yourself, be flexible.
Yeah. Lower your standards just for a little while. But
Yeah,
also, even if it's just 2 minutes in a day where you're still and you do some breathing or some pelvic floor. Just even if you have to build up to taking more time for yourself, just find pockets of a minute or two and say, right, for this next couple of minutes, I'm just me. I'm going to focus on me. And,
Yeah.
even if it's just sitting in the garden with a cup of coffee in the summer or tea or other hot beverages,
Yeah.
but it's just prioritizing yourself for just a minute or 2 minutes at first.
Yeah.
Or, like you say, hand over, have a bath, even if that bath is only 5 minutes to start with, even if it's a shower, but
Yeah.
just do it, set a timer and say, right, I cannot have the baby back until the timer's gone off, and just get used to putting yourself first, because it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. And just tiny snippets, and be kind to yourself along the way.
Yeah. And honestly, truthfully, guys, sorry about this, but it doesn't get easier to put yourself first when you've got kids. But you learn that actually you need to put your own oxygen mask on,
Yeah.
because the more oxygenated you are, the more you can give to everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's important. Charlotte,
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming and talking about this, because I actually think it's, some of the things we talked about are really, really important, because they're not always talked about. Um, and we need more openness, because I think more people will come forward for support when they need it and want it. And it also helps people realise that it's okay to feel up, down, sideways, confused. There's no
Yeah.
right or wrong, but there's a lot of help if you know who to ask, how to find it. So we need more of that out there. Where can people find out more about what you actually do business wise? Because you mentioned it's about supporting people still, and
Yeah, absolutely. So, if there's people listening who are the kind of people that put themselves under enormous pressure and feel like they're failing at everything, and they want life to feel easier again and enjoy the life without burning out, and whilst still being able to achieve the things that are important to them, you can look on my website, and I offer a free complimentary call for anyone who's seriously thinking that actually they really could do with some help. Or I have got a free resource for people who just feeling like they're finding themselves stressed more often than not, and who want to learn how stress shows up for them, and who want to learn how they can help themselves to manage that stress before it becomes a problem. So I've created a free workbook for people that is called the Personal Stress System, and that will take you through how to do that. So how to learn actually what that shows up like for you, and how to manage your stress before it becomes a problem. So I can share that link with you as well, Sarah, to put in the
I'll
show
make sure the
notes.
link's included, because again, I think it's something that people aren't always good at spotting the early signs.
Mm,
They're good at noticing when it's all gone horribly wrong. But it's that, hang on a minute, I'm doing this, this, and this. I need to stop and think why.
yeah, yeah.
But,
And it's all about spotting it in the moment so then you can deal with it in the moment,
yeah,
rather than getting to the end of the day and just feeling like you're up to here and can't take any more and you're about to blow your top. Yeah, so the workbook really helps you to recognize it as it's happening, do something about it as it's happening, and just some really simple ways that you can generally just manage your stress so that it's not building up as the days goes on and it's not going to cause a problem.
thank you for that. I will share the link for that as well, because I imagine there's quite a lot of people out there who will benefit from it. But for now, thank you so much for joining me as my guest, Charlotte, again. And thank you all for listening to Creating Active Lives with me, Sarah Bolito. Join me on the next episode. I'm not sure what we'll be talking about, but I'm sure it will be interesting. So have a good day. Thank you all, and see you soon.
Thank you, Sarah.